to use the 000 brushes. I can't find my 000 brushes here. I'll just get my 000 brushes here. Okay. I also keep a tissue paper roll handy so that if there's any cleaning required, I don't have to get up and go and just clean this all the time. I keep a tissue paper roll handy. I keep water handy so I can clean everything up as and when needed. I also keep a small katori with glue, edible glue here. Now, I make my own edible glue in tiny amounts as and when I need them, so that I don't have to purchase them from anywhere, right? I don't purchase my glue from anywhere. I just make it on my own, and I store whatever little quantity is left. So how do you make this? All you have to do is take a small amount of water and put as much CMC or tylose in it as you want the thickness. If you want more thick glue, you add more tylose. If you want less thick glue, you put less tylose. There is no proportion as such. If you want a very watery glue, if you put a very little amount of pinch of tylose or CMC, you will get very thin glue. If you want a thick glue, you put little more amount of CMC or tylose. Now, I hope that everyone here knows what CMC or tylose is. CMC or tylose is available as a white powder. It is a thickener. It is a thickener. It is most often used, as you can see here, it is most often used in ice creams. But in our cake industry, we have found that it acts as a thickener and a hardening agent even for our fondant. And you can add it to water and use it as an edible glue for all of our decorations. All right. So now, is there any difference between CMC and tylose? Then there is technically no difference between CMC and tylose. Tylose is imported from outside our country, and CMC is manufactured here. We just call it as CMC because that is the chemical name of the powder. It is carboxymethyl cellulose, so CMC. Whereas tylose is the same thing, but it is called as tylose in America, so we call it tylose. That's just it. There is practically no difference either between CMC or tylose. Both are used in the same way. Both have the same purpose. This one is little less expensive, and as you can see, I usually order in bulk like this because I need for a lot of purposes. So I prefer CMC because it is economical, it is cheaper. You can find it anywhere. And yeah, so this works. Now, other thing that we're going to need from the edible section, we're going to need, I will be using Modex today, which is my paste. Modex paste is something I manufacture. Okay, I primarily manufacture Modex. It is excellent for making your figurines, your toppers, anything you want going on the cake, you can make with Modex. Why Modex is so good? Because Modex has cocoa butter, which makes it like when you're working with it, the heat from your hands keeps it nice and soft. So as you're working with it, till you're working with it, it stays soft and flexible. It doesn't dry out. It doesn't cause a dry skin. And the moment you leave it aside, within 10 to 15 minutes, it sets hard. Not even 10 to 15, within 5 minutes. If you're working in AC, within 5 minutes, the Modex will set hard. But it's not dry completely. It is hard enough that you can, work around it. You can use it, take it, put it on your cake and send it. For complete drying of the figurine, it takes around a day or two. Given this kind of weather condition, it will take around a day or two for it to completely dry. But you don't need to wait for it to dry. If it is set up, if it becomes hard, you can just take it and you can put it on your cake and you can send it. This is one of the benefits of using Modex. The second benefit of using Modex is that you don't get elephant skin, definitely. But also it doesn't sweat as much as fondant sweats in your hand when you're working with it. And third thing, it is a little more resistant to humidity than your regular fondant. So if the weather outside is humid, well, if you make something with fondant, the minute you close your AC, everything starts sweating, right? So with Modex, there will at least be like a 24-hour gap before things start getting completely sweaty. So you can make your things 1 or 2 days before and nicely cover them and keep them. I'll show you how to cover your figurines and keep if you're not going to be putting them on the cake right away, and how to keep them safe from moisture. But with Modex, you do get a window of 1 or 2 days. If it is left outside by any mistake, it will still not go completely soggy and you'll still be able to put it on the cake. Alright, but if you must use fondant, say, I don't want to force any one of you to use Modex only. If you are using fondant to make this figurine, then you should take 100 grams of fondant, and to that you should add half a teaspoon of CFC or Tide Rose, knead it well, and then use it to make the figurines. Okay. Still, with fondant, there will still be problems. It will take time to set. So if you have made the legs, it will take time to set, like at least 2 to 3 hours for the legs to set before you can put on the torso. Not in the case of Modex. You can work like really fast when you're using Modex. Okay. So let's talk about Modex next. We are going to be using some part of pink fondant, some part we are going to be using green fondant. I don't care about brands, you can use whichever brands. When it comes to fondant, I use whatever I have on hand. So I'm using green for making the dress. I'm using pink for making the hair and the flower. I have some assorted gel colors, but those I'll be showing as we are working, so I'm not going to be talking about them right now. I also have Evaporex here, which I use for thinning down the colors. Say when I'm doing painting and I need to painting of the lips or painting of the eyebrows, I need to thin down the color a little bit, then Evaporex is your best bet, because if you use water, it is going to cause everything to go sticky. Evaporex, as the name suggests, it evaporates really fast, and that is why you can paint and it will not smudge. It will dry quickly and it will not smudge. Again, available at most bakery supply stores. Also available online on Bakery Cart, online on Amazon, practically everywhere this is available. So you don't have to be. Alright, so now first thing I'm going to be showing you is the first step regarding the figurine, and then I will turn the video down to my work surface so that I can show you the making of the parts. How this video is going to progress is, first I will show you everything in different parts on the mat. Okay, like I'll be showing you legs first, then torso how to make, hands how to make the face. I'll be showing you all of that in this format, so you'll be looking at it directly from above so that you're able to see everything very clearly. Okay, I'll be turning my camera this way so that you can see everything I'm doing on the mat. And then when I'm assembling, I will turn the camera once again to the position it is right now and move it back slightly so that you can see everything I'm doing over here. Okay, but right now, because this is not a great angle for looking at what I'm doing, so I'm going to be turning the camera upside down so that you're able to see directly on my mat. But for doing that, I need just 2 minutes so that I can rearrange the stand and I can rearrange the camera position so that you guys are able to see clearly and I'm able to read your comments clearly. All right, can you give Are you guys able to see my work surface clearly so that we can start? Okay, great. So now I have over here a little bit of Modex which I have taken, and I have the chestnut brown magic colors gel color. This is the color which I use most often for coloring the skin tone of my figurines. So this is like the perfect color. If I add a little more of it, it looks orange though. So if you want to get a brown, like a very Indian kind of skin tone, I will recommend adding first chestnut brown and then a little touch of dark chocolate brown. But supposing if you do not have magic colors chestnut brown, then what can you do? In that case, you can add a little touch of brown, whichever gel color you're using, just a little touch of brown, add a little dot of pink and a little dot of yellow, and then mix together, because our skin tone, if you see, is not technically only brown. It is a mixture of these shades. It is a mixture of brown with a little bit of pinkish that comes from the blood flow, and the little bit of yellow which comes from the fat that lies underneath it. Okay, so for that reason, if you're not having magic colors chestnut brown, you can just use more of brown, a little touch of yellow and a little touch of pink, and then mix it all up together and you will have a nice skin tone. Now, if you're not using magic colors chestnut brown, for the other color, you will have to kind of like experiment a little bit with. Ankita, ask your questions at the end of the class. No, please write down your questions and then ask at the end of the class, because otherwise my flow gets broken. I'm really sorry about this, but my flow gets broken and I tend to forget. Now, as I'm inching towards getting older, I'm tending to forget my sentences. So just write down your questions and I'll answer every single question at the end of the class. I promise you that. Okay. So all right. So chestnut brown. What was I saying? Yeah. So if you have any other gel color, don't worry about it. You will just have to kind of experiment with it. How much shade should I add to get the kind of color I want? Sometimes, say for example, if I want a figurine to have more of a darker skin tone, I will add more of brown. Sometimes if I want more of a Japanese kind of skin tone, I'll not put so much of brown, I'll not put so much of pink, I'll put more of yellow. So it really depends on what kind of figurine you want to make. You can experiment with your colors like this, okay? But for an average figurine with a normal skin tone, I just use a small touch of the Magic Colors Chestnut Brown. Where is it available? Again, I think it is available at most bakery supply stores, but if you can't find it there, you can go to Magic Colors website and you can buy it from the Magic Colors website directly. Okay? Now, I am not going to take all of this because I'm not going to need all of this and possibly need around 70 to 80 grams, but I'll take 100 grams just to be... Okay, one more thing I forgot to tell you about is this very nice, nifty little weighing scale. This is used mostly by sonars, the jewelers, for weighing the small amounts of like, what is the weight of my diamond ring kind of. So it helps me to get, it helps them to get the very tiny amounts, right? So it's a 4.37 grams ring that I'm wearing. But supposing like if you don't have this, you can use your normal kitchen scale, but normal kitchen scale will not give you very fine readings. So which is why I prefer this scale to get me the fine readings for the hands and for the feet. I will be telling you everything about, how much measurement you should be taking for each hand, how much measurement you should be taking for each leg, how much measurement you should be taking for the face. Okay, guys, some of you are having sound problems. If you're having sound problems, don't worry. This class is still being recorded, and in the recording, you will still be able to hear everything very clearly. So don't panic if you're not able to hear, all right? Okay. So, I found this jewelry weighing scale or a small weighing scale, precision weighing scale. You can also call it as a precision weighing scale. You can find this on Amazon because that is where I bought this from. Again, it is not very expensive. I think for 200 to 50 rupees, you get this scale and it is very nifty, very handy. It is battery operated, but the battery life is very long. So it lasts for like, one time you put battery, it will go on for like 4 to 5 months easily. 6 months even if you don't use it too much. All right. So I'm going to measure first about 100 grams. It's about 94. I'll take a little bit extra. I will not need all of this for the figurine, but I'm still keeping a little bit extra because it is Monex. Whatever you don't need, you can just put it in the cling wrap and keep it aside and you can reuse it at a later time. All right. So I'm taking 100 grams of this. And I am going to add my chestnut brown to this. In this weather, when you get Modex, it will come as a nice soft paste. When you order Modex, if you order Modex, and if you order it during the winter months or the colder months, it will come as a rock hard paste. Why does it become rock hard in the winter months? Because of the cocoa butter content in it. And that cocoa butter becomes set and rock hard in colder climates. So if when Modex comes to you, it is completely hard, rock hard, all you have to do is break off a piece and just microwave it for 5 to 10 seconds and then take it out and knead it and it will be soft like this again. So I now have added chestnut brown, but I feel like it is a little too light. I want to add a little bit dark. So I'm just going to add whatever extra there was. You may need to knead it for a little while for the color to become homogeneous. Otherwise, you'll get this kind of streaky kind of appearance. So you may need to knead it for a while. All right, now this looks cool. This looks good enough. So now what I'm going to do is first I'm going to start making the legs. Now this one part I was supposed to show you on the other setting of the camera, but I forgot, so I'm sorry about that. So I'll be showing you like this. I'll try to make it as clear as possible. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is, this is my dummy, and I'm going to be putting in. Let's see if I can just raise the camera just a little bit. Alright, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking the skewer and putting it directly inside my dummy, and it has to go down so that it has to come right till the bottom. If you can see this little point here, it has come out right till the bottom of the dummy. Why am I doing it this way? First of all, because when I take it out, I need to have enough skewer so that it goes throughout the width of the cake. So say my cake, on an average, the cakes are 4 inches tall. The custom cakes that we make, on an average, they have a height of 4 inches, right? So if I make a figurine and I've only put it like only so much inside so that it has only about 1 to 1.5 inches under the figurine. The figurine is here and you have only 1 to 1.5 inches on the bottom. When you stick it into the cake, it will be sitting inside the cake halfway like this. On a dummy, it is fine because a dummy is solid, so it will hold the figurine and the skewer in place. But what happens on a cake? Your cake is soft. Your cake has got spongy material in it. Your cake has got soft cream filling inside. Your cake has got liquid from the moisture that you give it. What happens is the weight of the figurine is going to make it, like, especially during transport, it will vibrate, and one point the figurine will tear the cake and it will fall down, right? So for this purpose, to get the optimum support, the maximum support from the cake, you have to make the figurine such that the skewer underneath the figurine, जो नीचे का skewer बचता है, उसको नीचे तक आना है, यानी कि यहाँ पर जहाँ पर केक बोर्ड होगा, it should actually take the support from the cake board and not from within the cake. It should come and touch the cake board. This will ensure that even if there is any kind of vibration, the board will still support the skewer, and the figurine and the skewer will not tear the cake and will not fall down. Okay, very, very important. Now, supposing if I make my cakes, but my cake height is not this much. If my cake height is 3 inches, then what? You still have 1 inch extra over here. You can just take like a plier or something and you can cut off the extra and fit the skewer to fit inside your cake, right? You can adjust the skewer to fit inside your cake. But minimum, please take 4 inches. Utna almost sab cake ke liye zaruri hota hai. Is this clear to all? The second point is that when you're putting the skewer inside, it fits very snugly, right? Bahut tightly it fits inside the dummy. Now, if you leave it like this only, what happens is that once your figurine is made and you're trying to take it off, it will not come off very easily and will end up squishing the figurine. So to avoid that, when we put our figurine inside, just move it upside down and round in a couple of directions so that it becomes nice and loose, so that you don't have to apply too much of pressure to take it out. This way, when you take out the figurine, you don't have to squish it and it will come out very easily. Okay, so make your skewer loose inside the dummy. Very, very important. Now, I have put in one skewer inside. I'm going to put one more skewer parallel to the first one and about 1 centimeter apart. No more than 1 centimeter, because if it goes any more than that, then there is a danger that it will come out from the sides of your figurine. Okay, so 1 centimeter apart, and parallel to each other. Again, I'll make this one loose as well. Is this clear to all, everyone? I'm just going to go and grab a pen for the next step. All right, I'm going to bring first, before I take the skewers out, because I need to take this down and then work on the legs for it. But before I do this, I'm going to take any kind of pen or something and just mark this point. Why am I marking this point here? Where it enters, where the skewer touches the dummy, this intersection is what I'm marking on my skewer. Why am I doing this? Because when I take the skewer out and I'm working on it on my mat, on my green mat, obviously I don't know where my leg should end, right? Which is the extent to which my leg should go. I don't know that. So this marking helps me to see, okay, this is the point where I'm making my leg and this is the point where it should stop. It should not go beyond it. Otherwise, I'll not be able to put it completely inside the skewer, inside the dummy. All right. So for this reason, I have made both these marks on both of the skewers. Now I'm going to bring the camera lower again so that you guys can see everything from up close. All right. Can you see everything again clearly? So now for each of the legs, I'm just going to take about 10 grams of 12 grams, 1 to 12 grams of fondant each for each of the legs. Okay. So this is 10 exactly. I'll take 2 more grams. It's just there. Can you see how accurately it measures everything? All right, this much is fine, 12.03. So now this is for one leg. I'm going to take 12 grams for the other leg as well. Why I measure everything? Because it helps me keep everything accurate. Otherwise, what happens is you may end up with one leg which is too big, one leg which is too small, or one leg which is too fat and the other leg which is too thin, and you can't figure out why this is happening, right? So this is one of the best way to ensure that each of the leg looks equal, each of the hand looks equal, and there is no discrepancy between the thickness of each hand. All right. So I've taken 12 grams for each of the legs. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my skewer and apply glue on the skewer above this marking, right? So How many squares am I taking? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is all I need. I need only 8 grams, 8 centimeters on each of the skewer for the leg. Okay. So I'll apply the glue like this on all sides. And then very important that you just take off whatever is excess glue. Because if you don't take out the excess glue, what happens is that instead of acting like a glue, it will act like a lubricant and your leg will move up and down on the skewer and will not be able to hold it in place. So your glue should just make your skewer slightly wet, but not so wet that the entire thing will slip down. So just enough glue on the skewer. And now I'm going to take one of the balls that I made for the legs, and I'll roll it into a ball. All right, smooth ball. And then I'm going to put it through the skewer like this till it comes about 2 to 3 centimeters above the line that we made. And now, very important, when you are rolling the leg, most of you tend to do either using the fingers like this. But what happens if you do it with the fingers is you will end up creating dents along the leg and it looks very ugly. So you should be using your palms to do the rolling first of all. And secondly, when you roll, practice this action where your thumbs are a little further and your little fingers are closer together. This will give you that right kind of V shape that we need for our legs, right? So I'm going to keep it like this now and do it, because if I do it like this, it will just hit the camera. So I'm going to keep it this way and do it, but you know what I'm doing. I'm just holding the ball of fondant in between my hands like this, and my thumbs are further apart and my little finger and the edges of my hand are closer together. And as I keep doing this, I will get this kind of a shape, okay? Which is thicker on one side and thinner on the other side. I'm not going to do too much right now. I'm going to just keep looking at it closely as I do it. If it is coming too close to the marking, I'll just move it slightly upwards. And I'll keep rolling, till I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay? I'm just going to roll it for 8 squares. Now, when you're making a figurine like this, which is an easy figurine, I do not bother with making the legs or the feet in a very beautiful or very detailed manner, because you don't need that, okay? Especially in a figurine like Elf, where the entire thing is covered by the dress. I do not spend any time making the shoes or making the legs. But if you're making somebody in a smaller dress, you can just take a roll of fondant and add it over here in this manner. Like if I am taking a small roll of fondant and I can just turn it into like a little U shape like this and add it here, and it will act like a shoe. Okay, it's a simple figurine. Like I said, it's not a very detailed figurine, but it will, in the end, I promise you, it is going to look absolutely cute. So I'm taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 squares is how much you should have. On the bottom side, it should become slightly narrow, and on the top side. So this is where you consider the leg or the feet, the ankle to be. And this is where you consider the hips to be. All right. So this is thicker, this part is thinner, and I have 8 squares. Now I'm going to keep this aside, and I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other part that I had reserved for the other leg. So before I do that, I'm going to take the skewer and I'm going to apply glue on it. Once again, I measure 8 squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'm going to apply the glue. More than 8 squares is fine. Less than 8 squares and your figurine will not, the fondant or the modex will not stick to the skewer, and it will cause a large tunneling inside. So that is because of less glue. So you can go a little more than 8 squares, but don't go less than 8 squares. So now I have just wiped off the excess. Once again, I'm going to just take the fondant, roll it into a ball, push it in through the skewer till it comes about 2 centimeters above the line, and then start rolling. Keep looking at it to make sure it's not going below the mark. Check how many squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We need it to come right to the end of this. So I'm just going to keep using the palm. Do not use your fingers to roll. Otherwise, like I said, you will get those ugly dents. Just use this portion, the fleshy part of your palm, to roll your figurine. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the other one is 8 as well. And you have both sides equal legs. All right. Simplest way of ensuring that your figurine is always equal, always looking uniform, always looking perfect is to measure everything at every step of the way, and you will never go wrong with getting one leg too long, one leg too short, or one hand which is too thick and the other hand which is too thin. You will never get that. You will always get the right proportions. All right. So with this, I have made the legs. Now I'm going to move on to making the torso. So for the torso, I'm going to take about 15 grams. I'll take about 20 grams, not 15. I'll take a little more than 15 because I want to show you guys how to make a bust as well. In my elf figurine, technically, I had not designed a bust at all because the entire thing was covered with dress. But I still want to show you guys how to make the bust, because if you're making a figurine which has a slightly deeper neck, I want you guys to know how to shape the bust if need be. All right, this is enough, close enough. So 20 grams I'm taking for the torso. You can write down all these measurements as I'm telling you. So I took 12 grams each for the legs. I'm taking 20 grams for the torso. Now for the torso, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll it into a ball like this. Completely smooth. There should be no cracks on the surface. So you may have to, if you're getting a lot of cracks, there are a couple of reasons why you may be getting cracks when you're trying to roll a ball. Number one is if there is too much CMC in your fondant, it can get cracks. Number two, if you're in a very dry weather, you can get cracks. Number three, if you've used too much of cornstarch, you can get cracks. So ensure that the CMC is less. Ensure that the weather that you're working in, if it is too dry, then don't add too much CMC to your fondant. If the weather that you're working in is very dry, like the humidity is less than 50%, I'll say just take about 1/4 teaspoon of Tylose in your fondant, and that should be enough. Okay, and cornstarch should be used as sparingly as possible in making of a figurine. Jitna kam ho sake. Try not to use too much cornstarch, because it will not only, first of all, it will desiccate your entire figurine. It will cause it to go dry. It will cause it to have cracks. But the second thing it also does is that too much cornstarch, if you're using in your palms or anything, it creates those ugly dusty lines. You know, those lines of dust in your figurine, and then you can't figure out where this dust came from. That is the cornstarch that you are working with. Okay, so try to use the minimal amount of cornstarch only if it is too much humid outside, and only if your hands are getting extremely sweaty. Otherwise, I will recommend not using cornstarch at all. All right. So now I have rolled this into a nice and smooth ball. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the palm of my hand to roll it back and forth till I have like a thick sausage here. So I'm going to roll it back and forth till I have a thick sausage which is equal and which is 4 centimeters in length. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. Okay, so just 4 centimeters in length is how much I want this. Priya, yes, I am working in AC. For figurines, at least you have to work in AC because without that, it's kind of like, if I want to make ice cream, do I have to have a freezer? That's a no-brainer question, right? For some kind of things, for cakes and all, an AC is required. With Modex, though, once you have finished working, you can switch off the AC and your Modex will continue to dry. It will not melt again. But till you're working with your fondant, your figurine, everything, you still have to work in an AC. All right. So now I have made it to about 4 centimeters, and right in the center of it, using the little your main problem is crack. We'll discuss that in the question and answer session. Just write down your question. We will discuss that in the end of the session. All right. So with my little finger, I'm just going to give a slight dent in the center while rolling it back and forth like this. Okay. If you do not want to use your finger, you can even use like a large brush handle if you have a nice large brush handle. If your finger is too thin, supposing, you can also use a large brush handle to kind of gently give this dent right in the center. All right. And on one side, I am just going to press it slightly, not too much. And if I turn this around, you can see that the shape of this particular piece is like, here it gets a perfect round. Here it has a round right on the end over here. And as it comes towards this dent, it slopes. Okay. So up, then slope down, and then a nice gentle curve over here. Okay. This is the shape we want to get, not like perfect 2 rounds like this. So I'm just going to slightly press this. Sorry about that noise. I'm just going to slightly press this so that you have this kind of shape. Now, if I turn it around, you'll be able to figure it out that this is the back of your figurine's body. The back as it comes down into the hip, and then the hips roundness. This is what it should look like. Now, I just turn this around, and on top over here is where I'm going to pinch out the neck. So for pinching out the neck, first I'm just going to grab a handful of it with all of my fingers and make a little triangle portion like this. And then using just your index finger and thumb, I'm going to shape it into a neck shape like this. Okay. Why am I just using my index finger and thumb? Because, and when you're using your index finger and thumb to make this, please make sure you're not using the joints to shape this. If you're using it this way, what you will get is a triangular neck, not a rectangular neck like this. So what you want is like a nice rectangle shape over here, not like a complete triangle like this. This does not look right at all. Okay, if your fondant is coming directly from shoulder to the neck, it doesn't look right at all. It has to have this little right angle dent in between. So for that, I'm just using the index finger and thumb to just pinch right at the base of the neck to get that right angle shape. Okay, this is what the neck should look like. Now, if you can see, after making the neck, now we have the neck, we have the back, we have the hips. But if you see over here, there is a little elevation which is right below the neck. This is actually what bulk we need for making the bust, but it is too high at this point. It is like way close to the neck. So I'm just going to slightly push it down with my index finger so that this is now what the shape looks like. As you can see, the bust, here is the back, here is the hip, and this is the neck. All right. And now I'm going to slightly shape the bust so that you get a nice cleavage and sort. So for that, I'm just going to take my Dresden tool, the pointy end of my Dresden tool first. I am just going to give a slight dent right in the center over here. This dent should not go all the way up to the neck and should not come all the way down to the bottom part of the waist. Okay, it has to extend only like a half a centimeter to 1 centimeter, only where the bust is. If it goes to the neck, you have messed it up. And now I'm just going to take my silicone tool. I'm going to place it here and move it in a V shape. So keeping the tip of the tool in the dent over here, I'm just going to move the back of the tool back and forth like this so that I can have the shape of a bust. You do not need to shape the bottom of the bust because anyway that part is not going to come in the dress at all. The dress only shows the top part of the cleavage, so that is all you need to shape. Is that clear to everyone? I hope that you're enjoying this process. I just shaped the waist also a little bit so it has a little beautiful womanly curvy shape. And this is what our torso now looks like from the side and from the front and from the back. Clear to all? So I'm going to set it aside now so that we can move on to the hands. Now for each of the hands, I'm just going to take 5 grams, not more than 5 grams, because any more than 5 grams, and instead of Sunny Leone, she'll start looking like Sunny Deol. We don't want a Sunny Deol, right? We want a Sunny Leone. Okay, so I'm just going to take 5 grams for each of the hand. उसमें से भी काफी कट जाएगा. We don't take the entire 5 grams as well, but less than that and it becomes a little difficult for us to manipulate. So 5 grams is what we take for each of the hands. Close enough. All right. So I've taken 5 grams for each of the hands. Can you give me just a minute? I'll just take a sip of water. Thanks a lot. All right. So each of this now we don't need any skewer for the hand because the hand is going to be just resting down. So you don't need to add any skewer to this. But if you're going to say like you're going to keep the hand up in the air or something, you can use a toothpick to build the hand so that one hand can be held up in the air. But for our figurine here, our elf is surely not taking a selfie, so I don't see the need for adding a toothpick into the hand. So I'm just going to roll this into a ball for everything that you work with, whether you're making legs or whether you're making torso, whether you're making hands or face. The first step should always be getting a smooth ball. It is from this smooth ball that we start making everything else. All right. So now that the ball is made, I'm just going to, again, now this time I'm rolling it on the mat entirely. I'm not rolling it in my hand, entirely on the mat. But again, when I'm rolling on the mat, my little finger is closer to the mat and my thumb I'm keeping slightly at a distance so that it is slightly slanted when I do it. Again, I'm using the fleshy part of the palm of my hand and not the fingers to do this rolling. I'll just give you a demo of what happens when you use your fingers to do the rolling. I've seen a lot of people doing this, but you can see what happens, right? It gets these ugly kind of lumps and bumps. It kind of looks like Harry Potter's wand, if I am, if I can say that. It looks like Harry Potter's wand, right? So I don't want that to be what our figurines' hands looks like. So roll it only using the fleshy part of your palm. Keep the thumb away and the the little finger close to the mat as you do this. I'm going to roll it for about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5 squares, maybe even 7. 7 squares is what I will roll it to first, and I will stop. Okay. Now at this point, what I'm going to do is first I'm going to press down only about 1 centimeter of this. I'm going to press it so that it becomes flat. But when I say flat, what I see a lot of my students doing is, I'll show you. So when I say that you have to make it flat, what I see a lot of my students doing is this, right? This is a papad. This is not what I want you to make. If you make it this way, you will not have anything left to shape the thumb or the rest of the palm from, and it will just look ugly. It's not nice at all. What I have done is I've pressed it flat, but I've left quite a bit of it as a fleshy piece so that it is still having some kind of meat in it. It still has some amount of fondant in it so that I can give a nice fleshy shape to the hands and to the thumb, right? So pressing it flat means only slightly gently coaxing it to be flat and not pressing it down with brute force. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a tiny brush handle, a thin brush handle, not any brush is fine. I just want the handle to be thin, because if we try to do this with hand, it will cause with my little finger, it will create a very big dent over here, and then that dent becomes like too big, so the hand will look very, very thin, right? I don't want that to happen, so I'll just keep the handle at 1 centimeter position, and I will roll my figurine back and forth like this, so that it creates a nice dent here. I hope you guys can see the dent. Okay? I'm just moving it back and forth till I have a slight dent. Now I can increase that indentation. I can just sort of roll my, it is this part of the hand. If you see, the part that we flattened was the palm, and this is the part of the hand that we are now trying to smooth. If you can see, it is thinnest at the wrist, and as it comes up towards the elbow, it becomes nice and thick. And that is the shape that we want. All right. So about 1 centimeter is for the hand, and then the rest of the hand, we have just shaped it. Now the next dent I will make at about, from the tip, I will measure 3.5 centimeters, and that is where I'll make the second dent. All right. And smooth it again a little bit on top. And the total hand length, I don't want it to exceed 6 centimeters. So at 6 centimeters, I'm just going to take my X-Acto knife and I'm going to cut it off like this. Okay. Now, what do we do with the rest of the hand? Right now, both the sides of the hand are almost looking identical, but we want to make it as a hand. So there has to be a side for the thumb. You cannot have the thumb on just about any side, right? So for the first hand, you get to pick which side you want to be on top and which side you want to be the back of the hand. I'm going to pick this side to be the palm side of the hand. So if I'm making the left hand, what I'm going to do, simple procedure is, this is the palm side of my hand, right? This is the upper side of the hand of the figurine. So I'm just going to keep my hand like this and check out where the thumb is. The thumb is on this side, right? So I'm going to cut out the thumb on this side and just make a marking here so that I do not forget. And now at this position, I'm going to cut a slanting V-shaped line in here and then a straight line like this. Okay, so that I have a thumb on one side. And then all you have to do is just hold this. Now this part, to some people it feels a little bit tricky. To some people they feel like, this is like my fingers will never fit in there. But if my fat fingers can fit in there, then anybody's fat fingers can fit in there. So just kind of gently roll it back and forth till you have a little thumb-like projection. And the rest of the palm, I'm just going to fold it like this. Okay, so this now looks like a nice little hand. Just fold it into like a C shape. All right, and if you have this little cut coming here from the X-Acto, you can just smooth it in using your Dresden tool. And that makes one hand. Can you see that? It's absolutely pretty. All right. If you want to give any further detailing, you can also give a few cuts here with the back of your X-Acto knife. You can just give 3 lines here and it will look like individual fingers. Okay, I hope that you're able to see this. All right, so this is how we have made the left hand for our figurine. Now we are going to move on to making the right hand. I'm going to make it in the same way as I made the left hand. Once again, I will just roll this onto the mat and then press the front part down so that it is slightly flat. Then use the brush handle at 1 centimeter mark to create a dent all around. Smooth it out and roll everything till it is first about 7 to 7.5 centimeters. At 3.5, I'm going to make a second dent. At 3.5 centimeters, I make a second dent. And then roll again, smooth everything again. And then I measure at 6 centimeters and I cut with my X-Acto knife. Okay. Now after I have cut, now I have a choice to make, right? So this part is the left hand, so obviously this has to be the right hand. Now, if this is the right hand and this is the top side of the right hand, that means the palm side. So I'm again going to keep this up And I'm going to hold my right hand and check where the thumb should come. So the thumb should now come on this side, right? I'm just going to first make an indication that this is the side where the thumb is supposed to come. And once again, I will make a V-shaped cut here and a straight cut from the top so that I have a hand-like shape. Once again, I'm going to roll the thumb and index finger so that it looks like a thumb and bend this to make it look like a hand, like a full hand. Okay? And then use your X-Acto knife to create 3 dents. So it will look like fingers. Now, sometimes during the hot season, if you're working with Modex, you may find that the Modex is getting too soft and too flexible. That is because the cocoa butter, as you're continuously using the Modex, the cocoa butter tends to melt and it becomes soft. Now, if it is becoming too soft, what should you do? You can just leave it aside for a few seconds and it will become hard again. Like if I see this right now, this hand is almost completely set up. It's been like 5 minutes since I made this, but this is almost set up and it's almost become hard. Another 5 minutes and it will become totally and completely hard, right? So I've made both the hands now. Has this been clear how I made both the hands? Both are also looking equal, absolutely the same, and of opposing sides. So each hand is of, one is of left hand side, one is of the right. Okay? Both are equal. And this is done. Is this much clear to all before we move on to the face? So as you can see now, we have each of the legs, we have one torso, we have both the hands, and now we are going to move on to the face. Now the face part is a little tricky to show in the video because sometimes the light can cause a little bit of overexposure and you may not be able to see the details. So give me a couple of minutes to figure out the light settings in this room and how I can make it absolutely perfect for all. Okay, so I am okay, so like I said, Shweta, I will answer again at the end in the question and answer. Just write down your question. I will answer in question and answer. Okay. Right now, just give me about 5 minutes. I'll see the light settings and I'm going to be muting myself for a little while. So don't think that I'm teaching something and you can't see. I'm just kind of seeing whether the light setting and the exposure is right for showing all the details on the face, because I don't want you guys to miss out on anything. Okay, so just give me 5 minutes. I'll be muting myself and adjusting the light settings. And once the light settings are optimum, then I'll start again. Is that okay with all of you? All right, so now we are moving on to making the head. Okay. For the head, I'm taking once again 12 grams, not more than 12 grams. Otherwise, it becomes too big. And one more thing you have to notice when you're making, I don't know if you can see the grams. Okay, in this. Okay, it's not very visible on the scale in the light, but I'm taking about 12 grams. Let's see if I can just adjust the camera a little bit. I hope you can see that it is 11.97, which is fine. As long as it is not 11.2 or it's not 12.93 or 13 or something, it's fine. It has to be as close to 12 as possible. Okay. So first step, as usual, is to roll it into a ball, a smooth ball, so that you don't have any cracks anywhere on the face. All right? A nice smooth ball is your first step. Second thing you have to remember when you're making figurines, especially when you're making the face, try to use the palm of your hands only for making the first ball shape. Everything else should be made like you have to keep your figurine on the mat and use only your fingers or the tools to handle as much of the stuff as possible. Why? Because there is heat coming in from your palms. Whether you're working with Modex or whether you're working with fondant, if you are using this in your hands all the time, if you're keeping it in your hand like this and working, eventually you'll find that it is getting sweaty over here, or the hand is causing the Modex to melt and it is getting all sticky and icky. So you have to make sure that the head part, which takes a little time, you have to work it as much as possible on the mat so that it doesn't get too sticky. If it starts getting too sticky in your hand, then you're going to take more cornstarch, and with more cornstarch, it is going to look dusty, it is going to look ugly again. Try as far as possible. This is the only part of the entire figurine that you will really have to practice to get it perfect. Okay. Now, the next step I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll it slightly so that you get like a little bit of a cylinder. Not too big. I don't want to make a big sausage. I just want to give it a little bit of an egg shape, a little bit of an elongated shape, so it looks like a face and it doesn't look completely rounded. Okay. So this, I would say, it is about, if I have to keep it on the exact square measure, it is about end to end, it is about 3 centimeters. Okay. 3 squares right now. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to just decide right now the entire face is like equal and symmetrical. Anything could be anything, right? So you get to choose, you get to decide which part is going to be the head part and which part is going to be the jaw part. I have decided this part is going to be the top of the head and this part is going to be the jaw. Now, as you can see, the lower part right now is very much rounded. It is round, and that is not what a jaw looks like unless we are talking about a really plump person. The jaw part over here is usually flat. So what I do is I just press it down slightly onto a mat so that it becomes slightly flat. Not too flat, but very slightly flat. I hope you guys are able to see that it is very slightly flat in this region. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a slightly big handle, like the handle of an X-Acto or the handle of your silicone tool. Anything is fine, but it has to be slightly big. It cannot be as big as the brush that we use to make the waist dent. It cannot be as thin as the brush that you use to make the ankle dent. It has to be slightly bigger. All right. And with that, keeping it in the center of this face, I'm just going to move it side to side. I'm not pressing it down. Okay. I'm not pressing it down because I don't want to have a very deep dent over here. If you get this dent very deep, then you're not going to be able to pinch out the nose. You're not going to be able to give any of the detailing. It will look like a very sunken kind of a face. So what I want is actually just to give a slight bit of indication that this is where the forehead is, this is where the cheeks are, and this is where the nose is. Okay, so a very slight dent. And only from side to side. I don't want it to go all around the head. I just want it to go from one side to the other side, from one ear to the other ear. Okay. So right now, if you see the face clearly, you can see that there is a forehead, there is a space where your eyes are going to come, and then there is this lower projection, which is going to be your cheeks. There is going to be nose and mouth over here. Is that clear to all, everyone, so far? Okay, awesome. Now the next step I'm going to do, I'm going to need a small ball tool, which I forgot to mention in the introduction part of the class. But we're going to need a small ball tool for making the nose shape. Okay. I'm going to try and move this a little bit more closer so you guys are able to see it from even more. Let me see if I can do it this way. Is this better? Are you guys able to see it? A bit better if I keep it like this? Awesome. Awesome. All right. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the nose shape on this. Okay. So I'm using this ball tool. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen these ball tools around in the market. These are just like, molding tools. They are available in like set of 4, I believe. Yeah, I have this set over here so I can show you. I'm just moving this aside so I can show you the ball tools. Okay, so I have these all ball tools and I'm using right now the smallest one of the lot. The others are very good for making flowers and stuff, but for the face, especially in a tiny figurine like this, we need just the small ball tool. That's it, the last one, not the other sizes. So these we'll be keeping aside. I'm just going to be using the small one. And from this also, if you see on both ends, it has 2 sizes. I'm going to be using the smaller one. There are 2 sizes. I'm using the smaller one. Okay. So now, okay, it's a little difficult for me to see what I am doing because it is too close to the camera. I hope I'm doing this right. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to demarcate mentally, which is the midline of the face. And on either side of the midline, I'm just going to use the ball tool to create like a little bit of dent on either side. Okay. So one side I've already done. I'm creating a dent on the other side. As you can see now already the nose has started forming. Okay. So I'm just going to bring this dent down on either side very lightly. Okay. Do not push it too hard. Otherwise you'll get a very, very deep kind of a nose and then it will not be very easy to repair as well. So I'm just going to give a little bit of a U shape here. Once again, this is not the kind of figurine that I usually make, but it is good enough to look very cute when placed on cakes. You can use the same procedure whether you're making a man or a woman. All right. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my index finger to smooth out the line that is formed in all of these directions. Okay. If you want to give the nose a little bit more of a definition now, you can take the Dresden tool. Just push up the nose a little bit with the back part of the Dresden tool. So this is the spoon end of the Dresden tool. This is the back of the Dresden tool. And I'm just using the back to kind of like flatten and shape the nose a little bit. Now, it may feel like I'm using a lot of pressure doing this, but trust me, I'm just using like a light touch to do this. I'm not actually pressing hard at all. It's a very feather light touch that I'm using. All right. So I'm just going to leave the nose at this point. I'm not going to make it any more detailed because then it will turn into a very detailed nose and that doesn't look good on this kind of a cutie figurine. For a cutie figurine, this is all that looks good. All right, so far clear everyone? Clear with the nose part? Awesome. So now next we are going to work on making the mouth. So for the mouth, about 3 mm below the nose, 3 to 4 mm below the nose, I'm just going to make a line like this. Okay. This line should be slightly extending beyond the nose, but not so far beyond that it is going to the center of the cheek. only like 1 to 2 mm beyond the nose in both directions. Okay, you can give a slight bit of curvature if you like, but don't give too much of a curvature because then that doesn't look very natural at all. Okay, so very slight curvature. I'm just going to deepen this dent a little bit. For this dent, I'm using the sharp end of my Dresden tool to give this dent. Okay, now that I have this dent ready, as you can see, now the mouth is divided by this line into the upper part and the lower part. Now, how do I turn this into a lip shape? So I'm just going to take the Dresden tool now and I'm going to flatten this part a little bit. Okay, so very, very lightly, I'm just going to shape. I'm going to use the back of my Dresden tool, the back part of the spoon end, and I'm just going to slightly just move it on the edge, top edge, to make it a little bit flat, and on the lower edge to make it a little bit flat as well. Okay, I can just make the line a little bit deeper. All right, so far clear everyone? What I have done? I've just used the back of my Dresden tool to make both the sides flat. All right, and now I'm going to shift to using my silicone tool, and here I'm going to make a little bit of a V shape like this for the upper lip, inverted V shape for the upper lip like this, and a U shape for the lower lip. So first I'll just press down over here and then shape on either side. This takes a little bit of practice to get perfect, so don't get disheartened if you don't get it right in the first go. Just keep practicing once or twice till you are able to nail this. All right? Then you can give a slight bit of deepening at the ends to make it look like a smile. All right? Once this is done, now I'm first going to shape the jawline, and then the chin and the jawline is what I'm going to shape now, and then we are going to move on to the eyes. I hope till this part everything is very clear to everyone. And see, although it has become a slight bit of flat on the back, it is not too flat and it is definitely not sticky. All right? Now I'm going to keep it on my hand like this, upside down, and I'm going to put both my hands on where the ears are. Okay, both my thumb and index finger where the ears are, and I'm just going to slightly press near the ear. Then I'm going to come closer to the lip. As I come closer to the face, to the front of the face, I'm going to press it more and more and more till I have this shape. Okay, so this is how I have shaped. When I turn it around, you can see that she has a nice chin and a jawline. Can you see that? So all I did was, and don't worry if you haven't understood this movement right now, you have the recording for 1 month. You can keep watching it 100 times, 200 times, as many times as you want till you get the hang of it. So all I have done is I have just placed my index finger and thumb near the ear, and as I bring it closer to the chin, I press it harder and harder and harder so that I get a nice pinched V shape on the bottom and I get a nice jawline on either side. Okay, so when I turn the face around, it looks like this. Is this clear to all? Shall I move on with the eyes? Awesome. So now for the eyes, I'm just going to take my Dresden tool again Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Thanks a lot. All right. So now for the eyes, I'm going to take my Dresden tool again. Now I'm going to show you first on a separate piece so that you understand first, and then I'm going to show it to you on the actual face. Okay. Now your Dresden tool, if you see, Preeti, it's okay. You will find it easy if you practice in the method that I've shown at least for 2-3 times. You'll actually get it. Okay. So now this is the Dresden tool, and this is the fat end or the spoon end of the Dresden tool. I'm going to use the flat side, not the curvy side. I'm going to use the flat side now. If you can see the Dresden tool, it already has the shape at the end, which is like that of an eye. So I'm just going to use this. Supposing if this is where I'm making the eye, first I'll just make dots, indicative of where I want the eyes to be. Okay, and then I'm going to take my Dresden tool. I will press it on one side first. I'll turn it around and I will press it on another side again, and automatically you have an eye shape. Can you see that? Okay, all I did was I pressed this on one side and then I pressed it on the other side again, and I automatically get an eye shape. All right, so simple enough. I'm going to keep this like that over here, and first I'm going to make markings so that all my eyes are in the same level. Okay, so I have now made the indicative markings that this is where I want the eyes to be. Now, supposing in this case, in the figurine, the eye we are going to make it as really nice and big. But if you want smaller eyes, like a Japanese eye or something like that, you can use even the flat part of the other end of the Dresden tool. Okay, but we are making a cutie figurine, so we want the eye to be nice.
Please tell again the face of doll.
Everything is recorded. If you have missed anything, I'm not going to show everything again because it will take us till evening. Everything is recorded and you're going to get the recording for 1 month. So please be patient. If you have missed anything, you can watch the recording again.
वो recording करी नहीं है तो
Guys, please keep yourself muted. All right, so now I am going to just press my Dresden tool here on the inside first, then turn it around and press it on the other side. Automatically, I have the eye shape here. And since we are using the tool's natural shape to guide us, so both your eyes will end up looking equal, and they will not look like one eye is too big, one eye is too small, which is one of the common problems I get from my students. That ma'am, मैंने आँख बनाया, but एक आँख बड़ा हो गया, एक आँख छोटा हो गया. When you do it in this way, both eyes will look absolutely equal. You can just refine the shape a little bit with your Dresden tool. Just define it nicely. Sorry. Sometimes when I focus on what I'm doing, I do not realize that it has moved down the camera, so I'm sorry about it. Okay. I hope this is clear how I made both the eyes now. Okay, the eye sockets. I've not finished making the eyes, but I've made the eye socket. And now I'm going to make the eye inside of that socket, right? So I'm going to keep this aside for now. I'm going to take my white Modex or white fondant in case you're using white fondant. And I'm going to just knead it a little bit. And I'm going to take equivalent to 2 grains of rice. Not more than that. Do you know how much a grain of rice looks like? Just about so much. So I'm going to take 2 of these. This is a little too big. Now, how much proportion to take for this, I cannot tell you in grams. It is too small to measure in grams. This is something you will have to practice to get perfect. Okay. So now I'm just going to pick this up. I'm not going to use any glue. Just 1 second. Hold on. Okay. I'm not going to use any glue. And I'm just going to place the eye inside the socket. If it is absolutely not sticking, then you can use a little bit of glue. Sometimes it happens. I've shown you the eye socket even without this thing. Like not on the face, but I've shown you directly the eye socket. It's just nothing, yeah. It's just that you have to keep your Dresden tool here, press it down, and then just make define the eye socket. Once you get the outline, you just have to define it. That's it. It's not really that hard. So once I have put the white part, once again, I'm going to use the flat part to kind of push the material inside the eye socket to make it nice and flat. Okay? I'm going to put the other one now. Where did it go? I lost it, I believe. So I'm going to apply glue. Okay, here it is. I'm going to apply glue inside of the socket. I'm going to pick this up, place it within the eye socket. And then as you can see right now, even when I placed it inside the socket, you can see that it is looking like it is stuck on the outside, right? It looks like it is pushing outside. It is not looking like the eye is inside. ऐसे लग रहा है eye उसकी बाहर आ गई है, right? So that is why we take the Dresden tool spoon end and we just kind of press it inside so it looks flush with the rest of the skin. It should look like it is coming out from the skin and not sticking outside. So on all sides, I'm just going to gently press the edges down and make the eye flat so it looks like it is coming from inside the skin. All right. So now that both the eyes are done, I am going to move towards the sclera. Sorry, the iris. The sclera is the white part of the eye. I'm sorry for dropping a little bit of biology on you. I am a science student. I'm a dentist, so it comes very natural to me to talk about the scientific names rather than other names. So the sclera is the white part of the eye, which is now done. So I'm going to move on to the cornea, which is the darker colored part of the eye. So for this, I'm taking black fondant. A very tiny amount of it, like the size of a mustard grain. If you can see it, it is only the size of the grain of a mustard. I believe all of you know what a mustard grain looks like, right? So how do I take out this much tiny amount? I can either pinch it off like this, or I can either pinch it off like, sorry, there was a, okay. So how do I know that I'm taking the size of a mustard grain? I can either pinch it off directly, or if I'm not sure, I can just roll this into a sausage and cut off the tip of the sausage like this and then roll it. That will also give you a size of a mustard grain. Okay. It has to be slightly like that bigger mustard grain, not the very tiniest mustard grain. Take a little bit more. Just 1 second, I'm getting an insistent phone call. I don't know who this is. You can start it. All right. So I've taken the equivalent of 2 grains of mustard. Try to keep it as equal as possible. थोड़ा बहुत बड़ा छोटा हो गया तो it is fine, but don't make it too big, like one big and one very small. ऐसा मत बनाओ. Make it as close to each other in size as possible. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it on the mat and I'm going to flatten it. Okay. So just press it down so that it becomes flattened like this. Can you see that? Just with my hand, my finger, I'm just pressing it to make it flat. So this makes it perfectly round shaped circle. Can you see how perfect it has turned out? Right? And then what we do is I'm just going to put a little bit of I'm just going to put I'm keeping these on the side for now. Okay. So now this is the face that we have. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the white portion here. And with the same brush, okay, I'll show you how I pick this up. If you try to take it with your hand like this and put it up, it's going to be extremely difficult. So I just use my glue brush to pick it up like this and place it in position. I'll do the same on the other side as well. Pick this up and place it in position. Okay. Once it has come in the position that we want it to come in,